Benjamin Franklin was born on Milk Street in Boston, Massachusetts on January 17, 1706, and baptized at Old South Meeting House. Ben was intended to attend school with the clergy, but his father only had enough money to send him to school for 2 years. For Franklin, his schooling ended when he was 10. He worked with his father for a time, and at the age of 12, he became an apprentice to his brother James, a printer, who taught Ben the printing trade. When Ben was 15, James founded the New England Courant, which was the first truly independent newspaper of British America. When denied the chance to write a letter to the paper for publication, Franklin adopted the synonym of Silence Dogood, a middle-aged widow. Mrs. Dogood's letters were published and became a subject of controversy around town. Neither James nor the Courant's readers were aware of the ruse, and James was unhappy with Ben when he discovered the popular correspondent was his younger brother. Franklin left his apprenticeship without his brother's permission, and in so doing this, became a fugitive. In 1723, at the age of 17, Franklin ran away to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, seeking a new start in a new city. After a few months, while working in a printing house, Franklin proposed to 15-year-old Deborah Reed. At that time, Reed's mother was wary of allowing her young daughter to marry Franklin, who had been convinced by Pennsylvania Governor Sir William Keith to go to London to acquire the equipment necessary for establishing another newspaper in Philadelphia, and also because of his financial instability. Finding Keith's promise of backing a newspaper empty, Franklin worked as a typesetter in a printing shop in the Smithfield area of London. Following this, he returned to Philadelphia in 1726. In 1727, Benjamin Franklin, then 21, created the Junto, a group of like-minded aspiring artisans and tradesmen who hoped to improve themselves while they improved their community. The Junto was modeled after English coffee houses that Franklin knew well. Reading was a great pastime of the Junto, but books were rare and expensive. The members created a library initially assembled from their own books. Franklin conceived the idea of a subscription library which would pool the funds of the members to buy books for all to read. This was the birth of the Library Company of Philadelphia. In 1728, Franklin had set up a printing house in partnership with Hugh Meredith. The following year, he became the publisher of the newspaper called the Pennsylvania Gazette. Over time, his commentary earned him a great deal of social respect. Franklin saw the printing press as a device to instruct colonial Americans in moral virtue. Franklin saw himself as uniquely qualified to instruct Americans in morality. He tried to influence American moral life through construction of a printing network based on a chain of partnerships from the Carolinas to New England. Franklin thereby invented the first newspaper chain. Franklin established a common law marriage with Deborah Reed on September 1, 1730. They took in Franklin's young, recently acknowledged illegitimate son William and raised him in their household. In addition, they also had 2 children together. In 1731, Franklin was initiated into the local Masonic Lodge. In 1733, Franklin began to publish the Poor Richard's Almanac under the pseudonym Richard Saunders, on which much of his popular reputation is based. Poor Richard's proverbs, such as "A penny saved is 2 pence dear," is always misquoted as "A penny saved is a penny earned." He sold about 10,000 copies per year. He became Grand Master of the local Freemasons Lodge in 1734. In 1736, Franklin created the Union Fire Company, one of the first volunteer fighter companies in America. Franklin was appointed Postmaster of Philadelphia in 1737, holding the office until 1753, when he and publisher William Hunter were named Deputy Postmaster Generals of British North America. Franklin was responsible for the British colonies. As far as the island of Newfoundland, opening Canada's first post office at Halifax, Nova Scotia. While Hunter became postal administrator in Williamsburg, Virginia, and oversaw areas south of Annapolis, Maryland. In 1743, Franklin founded the American Philosophical Society to help scientific men discuss their discoveries and theories. He began the electrical research that, along with other scientific inquiries, would occupy him for the rest of his life, in between bouts of politics and money-making. In 1747, Franklin retired from printing and went into other businesses. He created a partnership with his foreman, David Hall, which provided Franklin with half of the shop's profits for 18 years. This lucrative business arrangement provided leisure time for study, and in a few years he had made discoveries that gave him a reputation with educated persons throughout Europe and especially in France. Among his many creations were the glass harmonica, Franklin stove, bifocal glasses, and the flexible urinary catheter. Franklin started exploring the phenomena of electricity in 1746 when he heard of the Leyden jar. Franklin was the first to label positive and negative charges respectively. In 1748, he constructed a multiple plate capacitor that he called an electric battery by placing 11 panes of glass sandwiched between lead plates hung from silk cords and connected by wires. In October of 1748, Franklin was elected as a councilman in Philadelphia. In June 1749, he became a Justice of the Peace for Philadelphia. And in 1751, he was elected to the Pennsylvania Assembly. In 1750, he published a proposal for the experiment to prove that lightning is electricity by flying a kite in a storm that appeared capable of becoming a lightning storm. In 1751, Franklin and Dr. Thomas Bond obtained a charter for the Pennsylvania legislature to establish a hospital. Pennsylvania Hospital was the first hospital in what was to become the United States of America. On June 15th, Franklin may possibly have conducted his well-known kite experiment in Philadelphia, successfully extracting sparks from a cloud. Franklin was careful to stand on an insulator, keeping dry under a roof to avoid the danger of electric shock. Others, however, were electrocuted during the months following Franklin's experiment. Franklin's electrical experiments led to his invention of the lightning rod. He noted that conductors with a sharp rather than a smooth point could discharge silently and at a far greater distance. Following a series of lightning rods were installed on the Academy of Philadelphia and the Pennsylvania State House in 1752. In recognition of his work with electricity, Franklin received the Royal Society's Copley Medal in 1753, and he became one of the few 18th century Americans elected as a Fellow of the Society. On August 10, 1753, Franklin was appointed Deputy Postmaster General of British North America. Also in 1753, both Harvard and Yale awarded him honorable degrees. In 1756, Franklin organized the Pennsylvania Militia. He used Tun Tavern as a gathering place to recruit a regiment of soldiers to go into battle against the aboriginal uprisings that beset the American colonies. In 1758, the year he ceased writing for the almanac, he printed Father Abraham's sermon, also known as The Way to Wealth. When the lands of New France were ceded to the British under the Treaty of Paris in 1763, the new British province of Quebec was created among them, and Franklin saw mail service expanded between Montreal, Trois-Rivières, Quebec City, and New York. For the greater part of his appointment, Franklin lived in England. In 1763, soon after Franklin returned to Pennsylvania from England for the first time, the western frontier was engulfed in a bitter war known as Pontiac's Rebellion. Franklin helped to organize a local militia to defend the capital. Back in London, Franklin opposed the 1765 Stamp Act. Unable to prevent its passage, he made a political miscalculation and recommended a friend to the post of stamp distributor for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanians were outraged, believing that he had supported the measure all along and threatened to destroy his home in Philadelphia. Franklin soon learned of the extent of the colonial resistance to the Stamp Act, and he testified during a House of Commons proceedings that led to its repeal. With this, Franklin suddenly emerged as a leading spokesman for American interests in England. He wrote popular essays on behalf of the colonies. Georgia, New Jersey, and Massachusetts also appointed him as their agent to the crown. Deborah Reed Franklin died of a stroke in 1774 while Franklin was on an extended mission to England. He returned in 1775. By the time Franklin arrived in Philadelphia on May 5, 1775, the American War of Independence had already begun, with fighting between colonials and British at Lexington and Concord. The New England militia had trapped the main British army in Boston. The Pennsylvania Assembly unanimously chose Franklin as their delegate to the Second Continental Congress, which established the United States Post Office and named Benjamin Franklin as the first United States Postmaster General. In June 1776, he was appointed a member of the Committee of Five that drafted the Declaration of Independence. Although he was temporarily disabled by gout and unable to attend most meetings of the Committee of Five, Franklin made several small but important changes to the draft sent to him by Thomas Jefferson. In December of 1776, Franklin was dispatched to France as Commissioner of the United States. Franklin remained in France until 1785. He conducted the affairs of the country towards the French nation with great success, which included securing a critical military alliance in 1778 and negotiating the Treaty of Paris in 1783. When he returned home in 1785, Franklin occupied a position only second to that of George Washington as the champion of American independence. Franklin wrote several essays that stressed the importance of integrating the blacks into American society. Franklin also co-authored the first treaty of friendship between Prussia and America in 1785. Benjamin Franklin died from a pleuratic attack at his home in Philadelphia on April 17, 1790, at the age of 84. Approximately 20,000 people attended his funeral. Benjamin Franklin is the only founding father of the United States who signed all four of the major documents of the founding of the United States: the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Alliance with France, the Treaty of Paris, and the United States Constitution. His influence in the early history of the nation has led to him being called the only president of the United States who was never president of the United States. Since 1928, he has adorned American $100 bills, which are sometimes referred to as Benjamins. From 1948 to 1963, Franklin's portrait was on the half dollar. He has also appeared on the $50 bill and on several varieties of the $100 bill from 1914 to 1918. The first major bridge to connect Philadelphia with New Jersey is the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, named in his honor.